My brother gambled away my girlfriend's life-saving medical fund, so I destroyed his life. I'm 30. My girlfriend Clara is 29. We've been together since we were 20, fresh out of our first year of college. She is, and I'm not being dramatic when I say this, my entire life. She's the kind of person who is quiet but makes everyone around her better. She's smart, she's kind, and she's tough as hell. She's had to be. About 3 years ago, she got sick. Not cold and flu sick, but your body is eating itself sick. It took a year of tests, specialists, and terrifying nights in the ER to get a name for it. A hyper-aggressive, unclassified autoimmune disorder. Her immune system, for no reason at all, had decided her internal organs were the enemy and was attacking them. Specifically, her lungs and her kidneys. We were told she had maybe 5 years, and they would be 5 bad years. We did all the standard treatments, steroids that made her face swell up and her bones ache, immunosuppressants that made her catch every bug that went around. Nothing worked. The disease just kept marching forward. Then, about a year ago, her specialist told us about an experimental treatment. It was new, basically a complete T-cell re-engineering. They take her blood, retrain her immune cells in a lab not to attack her, and put them back in. The success rate in the small trial was over 80%. It was a miracle. The catch? It wasn't covered by insurance. Of course, the cost was $85,000. Might as well have been $1 billion. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and Clara was a part-time librarian before she got too sick to work. But I looked at her, and I made a promise. I told her I didn't care what it took. I didn't care if I had to rob a bank. She was getting this treatment. She laughed, but I wasn't joking. My family isn't rich, but they're comfortable. My dad's a retired plumber. My mom's a teaching assistant. And then there's my brother, Mark. He's 34. Mark is the golden child. Always was. He got a business degree, wears a suit, and works as a finance manager at a high-end car dealership. The kind that sells McLarens and Aston Martins. He's always been the smart one, the responsible one. I called a family meeting. I laid it all out. The disease, the treatment, the cost. My parents, bless them, immediately offered to remortgage their house. I said no, I couldn't let them risk their retirement. But I said I would take help. They cashed out some bonds they had and gave me $20,000. Then all eyes went to Mark. He did the whole big brother thing, puffed out his chest, put his arm around me. He told me not to worry, little brother. We'd handle this. He put in $15,000 of his own. He proposed we set up a new joint high-yield savings account. He said he'd manage it. He could move the money around, get the best return. We'd get there faster. I'd contribute everything I made. My parents would add what they could, and he would manage it. It sounded so responsible. It sounded so Mark. So that's what we did. For 1 solid year, my life was nothing but work. I took every shitty logo design, every horrible corporate branding job. I worked 18-hour days. Every single check went into that account. I stopped seeing friends. I stopped buying new clothes. I ate ramen and rice. Clara was on the wait list for the treatment, and we were saving. We got the account balance up to $83,000. We were almost there, just a few thousand more. I was so proud. I felt like I had actually kept my promise. 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday, Clara got the call. A slot had opened up. Someone had dropped out of the program. If we could be there in 2 weeks and wire the full $85,000, she was in. I've never felt joy like that. I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Clara was just sitting on the sofa, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. We were going to live. We were going to have a future. We were going to grow old. I held her, kissed her, and told her I just had to make one call and I'd be right back. I stepped out onto our little balcony, my hands shaking. I dialed Mark. He picked up and just said, "Hey, what's up?" I was screaming with joy. I told him we did it. We were in. Clara got the call. We needed to pull the money, wire it tomorrow. We were $2K short, but I could put that on my credit card. We did it, man. There was silence on the other end. Not happy silence. It was dead silence. The kind that sucks all the air out of the room. Mark, his voice was small. He asked if I could come over. Now, the joy vanished. It was like a light switch. I asked him what was wrong, to just tell me. "Please," he said, and his voice cracked. He told me to come to his apartment and not to tell Clara. I hung up. I walked back inside. Clara was looking at me, her smile already fading because she could see my face. She asked what it was. I lied. I told her it was nothing, just a small snag with the bank, the transfer limit. I had to go to his apartment to sign a form. I'd be back in an hour. I told her to start packing a bag. She nodded, uncertain. I kissed her. It felt like ash in my mouth. The drive to Mark's condo took 20 minutes. The entire time I was telling myself it was a paperwork issue, that he'd put the money in some investment that was hard to liquidate. Annoying, but fixable. I used my key to get into his building and went up to his unit. The door was unlocked. The place was a mess. Not just messy, but destroyed. Takeout containers everywhere, shades drawn, bottles on the floor. Mark was sitting on his sofa in a bathrobe, even though it was 3 p.m. He was pale and hadn't shaved in days. I asked him what the fuck this was and told him we had to go to the bank. He wouldn't look at me. He just stared at the floor. I told him, "Mark, look at me." He slowly raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot. I knew right then before he even said a word that the man who was supposed to be my brother, my protector, was a fucking snake. He whispered that it was gone. I just stood there. I didn't understand the words. I asked him what was gone. The money. All of it. It's gone. I still didn't get it. I asked him what he meant by gone. If he'd been robbed. If the bank collapsed. He finally broke. He started sobbing. The ugly, heaving kind of cry. He told me he had a problem. A gambling problem. He thought he could double it. He took some out for an investment. It was a sure thing. And he lost. So he took more. To win it back. And he lost that, too. He cried. And I just stood there watching him. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just cold. It was like I was watching a stranger. I asked him, my voice flat, "How much, Mark?" He sobbed that it was all of it. All $83,000. It's all gone. I was going to win it back. I was going to put it back before you knew. I'm in trouble, man. He was going to let her die. He was going to let Clara die so he could play a fucking game. He was crying about the trouble he was in. I looked at him, the sniveling, pathetic wreck on a $4,000 sofa. He had destroyed my life. He had killed the person I loved most in the world, and he was crying about himself. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. I didn't hit him. I just turned around, walked out of his apartment, and closed the door. I got in my car and I just drove. I had 13 days to get $85,000 or Clara would die. I thought about going to the police, but what would that do? They'd arrest Mark. A lawsuit. It would take years. Clara didn't have years. She had days. I couldn't go to my parents. They'd be destroyed, and they'd already given everything. I couldn't go to a bank. I'm a freelance designer with shit credit. They'd laugh me out of the building. I couldn't tell Clara. The shock, the stress, it would literally kill her. The doctor had been crystal clear. Any major stress could cause a flare-up she wouldn't recover from. I was trapped. I was in a cage. And my brother had just welded the door shut and thrown away the key. That's when I remembered the video of the coyote, the one trapped in a steel leg trap. It gnawed its own foot off to get free. I drove to a dead-end street and I sat there as the sun went down. And I started to think. Mark was a finance manager at a high-end car dealership. He often drove demo cars home. He loved to brag about it. He'd text me stuff like, "Just took a new Porsche 911 home for the weekend," or "You should see this new Aston." Last week, he'd sent me a picture, a selfie of him grinning like an idiot next to a bright orange McLaren. His text said, "They're letting me hold on to this beauty for a few days to show a special client." I knew Mark. He was lazy. He was arrogant. He left his keys on the hook by his door. His garage passcode was our childhood street address. I thought about a guy I used to know from my old neighborhood before college, a guy named Sully. Sully was the kind of guy who could get things, and he was the kind of guy who could lose things. I had a plan. I drove to a 7-Eleven. I bought a burner phone and a $50 prepaid card. I sat in my car in the parking lot and texted the number I still had for Sully, praying it was still his. "Hey Sully, it's my name. Long time. I have a hypothetical question." He responded almost instantly. "Talk." Hypothetically, what if I knew where a clean new McLaren 720S was going to be tonight? With keys. A minute passed. Hypothetically, that's a dumb car to move. Too loud. Too many trackers. My heart sank. Then another text. But a hypothetical buyer in a hurry might pay $100K for the parts if the car could be delivered to a specific location. My hands were shaking. The seller would need cash, not parts, and they'd need it tonight. Sully. That complicates things. My buyer doesn't like cash. $90K cash. But it has to be tonight. No trackers. You got 10 minutes to find the tracker and rip it out. Me. Where? He sent me an address. An abandoned-looking warehouse in the industrial part of the city. Me. How do I find the tracker? Sully. Not my problem. Be there at 3 a.m. or don't. I sat there. I was about to commit grand theft auto. A $300,000 car. I Googled McLaren 720S tracker location. I found forums, diagrams. There were two. One was standard, in the dash. The other was a dealer-installed GPS, usually hardwired under the driver's seat. I'd need a wire cutter. I went back into the 7-Eleven. I bought a pair of wire cutters from the sad little auto supply aisle, a pair of thick rubber-coated work gloves, and a black beanie. I drove to Mark's building and parked 2 streets over. I sat in my car and watched. At 11:30 p.m., Mark's special client must have been done because he pulled the orange McLaren into his underground garage. He got out and walked into the elevator. He didn't even look back. I waited until 2:30 a.m. My heart was trying to escape my chest, but I wasn't scared. I was just focused. I put on the gloves and the beanie. I walked to the garage's pedestrian entrance. I punched in the code. Our old address, 1425. Beep, click, the door unlocked. I walked down into the concrete silence. There it was, gleaming under the fluorescent lights. It looked like a spaceship. I walked to his apartment door. I used my key. I slowly, silently opened it. The apartment was dark. I could hear him snoring, passed out, probably from booze, in his bedroom. There they were, on the hook by the door. The keys. I took them. I walked back to the garage. I didn't let myself think. I just did it. I got in the car. The leather seats smelled like money. I put the key in. I didn't start the engine. I just put it in the on position. I slid the driver's seat all the way back, got on the floor, and aimed my phone's flashlight up under the dash. It took me 5 minutes, but I found it. A small black box, badly hidden, with a red and a black wire. I cut them both. The second one, the main one, was harder. It was behind the glove box. I had to pry the panel off. My fingers were shaking, but I got it. Another black box. I cut the wires. I sat back in the driver's seat. I took a breath. I started the car. The engine roared to life, echoing through the garage. It was so fucking loud. I nearly pissed myself. I just put it in drive and rolled slowly to the gate. It sensed the car and opened. I drove out. I didn't speed. I drove the speed limit all the way across town to the industrial park. My eyes were glued to the rearview mirror. No cops, no one. I pulled up to the warehouse. The big bay door rolled open. I drove inside. 2 guys in masks were waiting. They didn't say a word. One of them opened a duffel bag on a table. It was full of cash. The other guy walked around the car with a little electronic device. He nodded. The first guy said to leave the key, take the bag, walk away, don't look back, and that this never happened. I took the bag. It was heavy. I walked out of the warehouse. The bay door closed behind me. I walked 3 miles back to my car, carrying a duffel bag with $90,000 in it. I got in, shoved the bag under my seat, and drove home. I got to my apartment at 4:30 a.m. Clara was asleep. I hid the cash in the bottom of my closet under a pile of old portfolios. I threw the gloves, beanie, and burner phone in a dumpster 2 blocks away. I went inside, showered, and got into bed. I didn't sleep. I just lay there watching the ceiling until my alarm went off at 7 a.m. At 8:05 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mark. He was screaming, hysterical, that he'd been robbed. The car was gone. They stole the fucking car. My God, he was so fired. He was ruined. I had to act. I let the shock hit my voice. What are you talking about? The McLaren? He said, yes, it's gone. I called the cops. They're here. My boss is on his way. He's going to kill me. I told him I was on my way. I went to the kitchen. Clara was up, pouring coffee. She asked what was wrong, said I looked awful. I told her that was Mark rubbing my face. His demo car got stolen from his garage last night. He was freaking out. I had to go over there. She said, oh my God, that's terrible. I just said, yeah, terrible. I went back to Mark's. It was a circus. 2 cop cars, Mark's boss, a guy in a $1,000 suit who looked like he wanted to commit murder, and Mark, who was sitting on the curb, head in his hands. I played the part. I was the loyal, stressed out brother. One of the cops pulled me aside. He asked if it was true that I was here last night. I said, yeah, I came by around 3 p.m. and that he wasn't doing well. He asked what I meant. This was my moment. The moment to twist the knife. I sighed. Look, I love him, but he's got problems. A bad gambling problem. He called me yesterday. He lost a lot of money. Money that wasn't his. He was a wreck. Honestly, officer, are you sure it was stolen? The cop's expression changed. He asked what I was implying. I said I wasn't implying anything. I was just saying he was desperate. He's a finance manager. He knows how to disable trackers. A $300,000 car? That's a lot of debt paid off. The cop looked at Mark, then back at me, and said, thank you for your honesty, sir. That's very helpful. I had just framed my brother for the crime I committed. I walked over to Mark. He looked up at me, his eyes full of terror. They think I did it. They think I stole it. You have to tell them, man. You have to help me. I looked down at him. Help you like you helped me? You were going to let her die, Mark. His face crumpled. He knew. He couldn't be sure, but he knew. And he knew he couldn't say a word. He couldn't exactly tell the cops. I didn't steal the car, but I did steal $83,000 from my brother for his dying girlfriend. So he probably did it. He was trapped. I left him on the curb and went home. I walked into my apartment. Clara was on the phone with the hospital, coordinating. She asked how it went, covering the receiver. I told her it was a mess. I have to tell you something. I fixed our problem. She asked, the bank? No, I said. I sat down, putting on my ashamed face. I got the money. All of it. She asked, what? How? I told her I took out a loan from a private lender, a loan shark. I made my voice sound raw. The interest it's criminal, but I had to. It was the only way to get it this fast. I'll be paying it off for years, but I don't care. It's done. You're getting the treatment. She started to cry. My God, you did that for me? Of course I did, I said, holding her. But you can't tell anyone, especially not my family. I'm so embarrassed. Please just let this be our secret. She promised she wouldn't. The next day, I took the $90,000 in cash. I went to 5 different check cashing places and got 5 cashier's checks. I went to my bank and deposited them, saying I'd been paid out for a massive series of retro design projects from an overseas client who paid in cash. It was messy, but the bank took it. 2 days later, I wired $85,000 to the hospital. Clara started her treatment last week. Yesterday, the doctors told us it's working. Her markers are down, her lungs are clearing. For the first time in 3 years, she's not in pain. She's in remission. I saved her life. Mark was fired, obviously. The dealership's insurance is pressing charges. He's probably going to jail. My parents are destroyed. They're begging me to help him, to give him an alibi, to talk sense to the dealership. They said I'm being cold. They said I'm a monster for abandoning my brother after he lost our money and got robbed. They don't know the half of it. I feel nothing. No guilt, no remorse, just relief. Fucking relief. Clara is going to live. I'm paying off my fake loan every month, putting the extra cash into a new savings account in just my name. We're moving out of state as soon as she's strong enough. I'm changing my number. He was going to let her die. An animal trapped in a cage will gnaw off its own leg to escape. I did what I had to do. What do you guys think of my situation? Let me know in the comments.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.